And then in just about 30 seconds, I think I will say my welcomes and all that. Let's see how many people are on, actually. 7 people are on. We'll see. I usually give them a couple of minutes. So I know that there are people from the US joining as well, so that's really exciting. And I see people from Denmark, mostly Denmark. Hi, everybody. Yeah. Welcome, welcome. Do you have any, is there anybody you know that's joining us tonight, Justin?
Isabel is my girlfriend, actually. She's more like sneaking in, but...
Hello.
Hello.
There she is.
She doesn't have you on the television screen in the living room?
No, actually, I'm in my my own small apartment, so it's like we are not sitting in the same room.
Oh, that's funny though. Okay, well, do you know what? I am going to say welcome. So welcome to Conversations with UX Copenhagen. My name is Helle Martens, and yeah, well, the conversation is, the idea for the conversation came from, you know, I've held the conversation, I want to start over again, I'm sorry. Welcome to Conversations with UX Copenhagen. I'm here tonight with Thorsten Jonas from Hamburg, and he is an independent consultant, mostly strategic UX and coaching. And we will be talking about the subject of burnout in UX, which is actually something I think we're not talking enough about. I want to tell you a little bit about the Conversations with UX Copenhagen. The idea came from, you know, me having all these interviews with my potential speakers, and we always end up speaking about all these really interesting things. And I thought that would be fun to share with everybody because, I mean, we don't just talk about, you know, the potential talk or the theme of the conference. I mean, we go all these weird places, and it's always really fun. And it's just, you know, getting to know people. And especially these days where we're all so much, you know, secluded in our own homes and without too much interaction, then it's just nice to get to know other people, right? And so that's basically what it is. I want to mention that UX Copenhagen has a code of conduct. So of course, there will be no harassment and no discrimination, that kind of thing. Not in the Conversations with UX either. And UX Copenhagen is a safe stage for all kinds of different voices. So that's just, you know, the basics. Then I want to introduce Thorsten. We just got in contact like a couple of days ago, pretty much. And I think it was Doug Collins's tweet. Is that right?
Sure, yeah.
And we like commented on it, and then we started chatting together, and all of a sudden we were like messaging each other and then talking about a potential talk for the conference. And yeah, like again, like I said, it's just such an important topic. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the topic?
Sure. So yeah, hello everybody.
Yeah, introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hey, Helle. So thank you very much for having me. As I said, I'm really excited. I really like the conference. I wanted to go there for years. I think for at least the last 2 years, and couldn't make it. So I have a sister in Copenhagen. So there is like I have a connection to Copenhagen as well. And I've been to the conference in Malmö, which I really love as well. So you have great conferences there, and in the northern part of Europe, I can tell. And so yeah, I'm Thorsten, and I'm like I call myself a strategic UX consultant. Well, you know, we all need great titles, right, for things, and also a coach, and I'm a mentor for UX designers doing these stuff. And so for almost 11 years, I was working in a digital agency here in Hamburg, and was the director UX for them. And so in the end of 2018, I think I ran into maybe the biggest challenge I had in my life yet, which was a burnout. And so I got through, and I returned to the agency. But in the beginning of this year, I decided it's time to leave and to do something else. And so from this story, I realized whenever I talk to people about my story, I realized that there were so many people asking for more, and were so thankful that somebody starts talking about this topic, because it happens to so many people and it's happening so often, but still it's always the others that it happens to, and still we are not really talking about it. So for example, in my agency, I said to them, hey, please tell everybody what's going on. That's okay for me. I want everybody to know why I'm not here. And when I got back to the agency, I realized that most of the people didn't know why I was away. They were asking me, hey, why were you away? And I was like, hey, why didn't I tell you? And that's why I decided to go to the public and talk about this topic of burnout, and talk about my really personal experience, actually. So how I ran into, because it starts so much earlier than you always think. It's not like, okay, yeah, burnout starts, here I am. It's a thing of years, and the spiral is turning and turning for years, and the signs are there pretty early, and you can see it for yourself, or you can see it for your colleagues as well. And I think this is so important, that all of us look more out on ourselves, but also on our colleagues or the people from our teams that we are leading, to be aware of these things. So, and what I realized as well is, for example, that we, especially as creative people, I always thought, okay, as long as I'm creative, I'm still fine, right? Because I'm still functioning. But in fact, that's not true. It's like, it's really dangerous, actually, because you start, your creativity is harming you from the inside, because you use this to somehow overcome the bad situations, and things get worse and get worse. And it's like you're burning yourself from the inside by being creative. And that's really important to know for us as creative people. But what I can also tell is that my creative tool set, so the things that I do at my work, doing workshops, putting post-its on walls, right? So during my phase of healing, I did this with myself. And so my kitchen wall, I made an ongoing week ongoing workshop with myself, putting myself on the kitchen wall, so my inner self. And this was really, looking back to that now, it's really interesting that also my creative tools could help me in this really, really dark phase, right? And I realized also that it's really helpful for other people when I tell them about these things, and that I tell them, okay, this is going on, this is what's happening, these are the signs, and these are things you can do when you run or when you run into this. And so yeah, that's the reason why I want to share my story, because yeah, I see so many people take at least some things from this, and it helps. It seems that it helps so many people. That's what I hear when I talk to people, or when I, for example, I did this talk at the Adobe Max conference this year in October, and there were so many people coming to me afterwards and saying thank you, and asking things, and telling me, okay, yeah, we are in a similar situation. So there are so many people out there, and yeah, we all need to talk much more about this. It's like, well, if I have a broken leg, I say I have a broken leg, I cannot go hiking or whatever. When I have mental illness, I'm not saying this. It's still something that's nobody should know, and I think we have to change this, because it's the number one reason why people are not able to work, right, in the whole world. So it's not the broken legs, it's the mental illness. And yeah, I hope to do my very little part on this, bringing this more to the table, and start more discussions and conversations about these things. And that's why I'm really happy that, yeah, we, as you said, we met like a few days ago, and that we do this here. And so thank you once more for having me. It's great.
Oh, thank you for wanting to. No, I think it fits in perfectly. It doesn't necessarily fit in with the theme, but it's just such an important topic. I've tried to bring it to stage. I've had a fantastic interaction designer called Peng Chang, who is from China originally, but has lived in Denmark for like 15 years, maybe more. He actually developed an app called Sway, where actually the first one was called Pause. and it's like you move your finger quietly. It's kind of like for meditating. And then afterwards he did one that's more, have you heard of it?
I think I know pause. I know that with the finger.
Yeah. Then he, a couple of years later, he like expanded on the idea and then did something where you have to do small movements with your body, kind of taking what's it called? You know, starting from Tai Chi.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of did that. And yeah, you know, it's such an important thing for us to stop and slow down once in a while. But tell me, so what are some of the early signs, and what would you have done? Like, what if somebody had said to you, hey, you're showing signs of stress, you know, is it time to slow down? What would you have done in the beginning of your burnout?
Well, what would I have done? Actually, the problem is, I think that when somebody comes to you and even tells you, it's not a one-time thing that you say one time to somebody and things are good. It's a process, and I think I would not have believed that it's true, right? I would have been more like, no, I'm fine, it's okay. And so, because the problem is, in my case, I can tell it's so when you go in depth with yourself and you see things are coming from other things, right? And some things come from your childhood, right? And it's like you have certain things in your feelings and in your minds that are triggering you in certain situations. So for example, for me, I took a lot of self-affirmation from my job, and that's a real problem, right? Because the job, things were not good for me, and too much work was not good for me, but still I took too much from it to define myself and to feel like I'm valuable, right? And so that's a real big problem. I know these things today, but it took me a long time
that's
to
also
get there.
That's a mindset that's very hard to change, though.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you cannot do that on your own, right? You need professional help. The important thing to know is that professional help on its own will not solve the problem. It's like they are like advisors, but you have to go the way by yourself. It's really important to know. You have to work to do the work by yourself. But let me get back to the science. So what my story, or when I tell my story, I always begin with the day where I started working at the agency, because so I'm a UX designer, and on my first day at the agency, I became a UX designer. So at university, I studied, how was it called? Digital media. So I had a little bit of IT stuff and a little bit of design stuff. So I know little of everything, but I'm not the best in anything. And so on my first day there, they hired me as a product manager, actually. And on my first day, they said, hey, we want to build up a UX department. Do you want to be a UX designer? And I was like, I have no idea what a UX designer is, but it sounds great. So let's give it a try. That's how I became a UX designer.
Yeah.
And so I found my dream job actually there. I really loved that job, and all made sense. It was like, okay, that's why I did studies in digital media. It all made sense, and it was my dream job. But still, this is where also the spiral started to turn, I think, because it was like, okay, yeah, it's such a cool job, and I'm like, it's so much fun, and I started working more. It was not like I was working 50 hours every day in the beginning, right? But I was working more and was more taking more, or bringing, or the job became more and more important to me. So what I can tell is, I think, so I started at the agency in 2009, and I think 2 years later, I think 2 years later, for the first time I felt like something is wrong, and I took like 2 months off. So I said, hey, can I take take all my vacation days, and can you just put me off for a month, and so I can just do some traveling and stuff. So I realized there is something wrong. But actually, so I went on holiday, I went surfing and did some hiking. I had a great time, and I came back and went on the same way I did before, because I felt better, right? So there was the first sign, but I didn't do anything. Didn't do anything about it, and that was a real problem, I can tell, because I could have started way earlier. And I think another 2 years later, I got, for the first time, I got professional help, because I felt like, okay, some things are not really going on, but still I was not really able to tackle the basis of all these problems. I felt there is something wrong, but yeah, still I was not like well, I was not able to get down to the ground of these, even with the professional help, because as I said, professional help, they can help you, but so I think I'm really good in pretending that everything is fine.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
I'm a specialist in this.
Me too.
And you can do this with your therapist as well, I can tell. And
Really?
so it was like, it helped me later on. So the things we did there helped me later when I was really in darkness, and because I had a basis and I had things where I could start. But still, it was these phase was not able to stop the spiral actually. And I got more and more self-affirmation from my job. I worked more and more. It was not like that I was working 50+ hours every week. So it's not like these I was working myself to death, but I still was taking more out of it. I still was more of these, okay, I have to better, and it's so much fun, and I have so much great ideas, and it's so cool, but I got more and more exhausted actually. And you get this feedback from the people. So we have Isa here, my girlfriend, and you get this feedback, and people say, hey, things are not okay actually, right? And you're still not able to confess to yourself, okay, yeah, things are really, really wrong. And so, as I said, so when my breakdown happened in the end of 2018, and so what I realized, I think the first time I really, really realized I cannot go on anymore was like in November 2018. So my birthday is in the end of November. That was this week.
Congratulations.
And so for my birthday, I really like hiking and mountaineering and stuff like this. And I went to Scotland for 3 days for just go hiking over my 40th birthday. And I had a great time. I did great hikes. I went up mountains in snow and dust, and I had white out, didn't see the floor and the sky anymore. I really liked this, right? And the first minute I was back at the agency, back from holiday, I felt totally stressed, and I was like, again. And I think this was the first time when I really, really realized, okay, there's something totally wrong here. And I somehow managed to move on until Christmas. Then I had some family issues over Christmas, and so some more things came together. And the day, and that was my big luck actually. After New Year's Eve, the last day before I had to go back to work, actually, I realized, okay, if I would go back to work tomorrow, I would physically fall down, right? So that was my big luck, that I was able to realize that by myself, because there are many, many other people who do not realize this, and they break down physically, and they only sit in the corner, right, and look to the wall and can't do anything anymore. And I was still able to take at least this little action and confess to myself, I can't go on like this anymore, right? So I was still lucky, though I had I came a long way. And so to get back to the question, the signs are there again and again, and the people are there that will tell you something is wrong. I think it's important to know for us, especially if we see someone else struggling with these things, it's not enough to say, hey, is everything okay, right? And if the person says, yeah, I'm fine, then we are fine. It's a process, and you have to stay in touch there actually, and ask again and again. As a colleague, as a leader, well, as a friend, right? And this is a really important learning for me, because I know that people will tell you and you won't believe it, or in your deepest inner self, you know that this is right, but you don't want to believe that it's right?
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
Especially like what you said. I mean, you can be having fun. I mean, you can burn out even though you think what you're doing is really fun. That's kind of that's a real eye opener for me, actually, because I totally see it. I understand what you mean, and I would never admit it if I was too stressed out. I'm fine.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, and I think that's maybe especially for us creative people, this problem is even bigger, because we are like creative, and creativity is our thing, and it's like, okay, this is, as long as my creative fire burns, I'm fine, right? But this fire can turn into a bad fire, because I'm using it to cover my real problems, and then it switches and turns to a bad thing, and turns to or is harming me, and that's a real problem. So
it manifests in your body physically.
Pardon?
It manifests in your body and can harm you physically, right?
Yeah, that's definitely a problem as well, that at some point you feel more and more exhausted, right? You're tired, and it's like so I always used to do lots of sports, actually, and sports are good for me, and it's a good even if I have stress, to go out running, and so, and I do triathlon and stuff like this, but you have to be careful there as well, right?
Really?
Because if it turns out you're doing this to, again, cover your problems, then it's not good anymore. So the problem is you are still able to do many things, right? But from the inside you are like burning. So that's why the term is really really good, actually, for this.
Yeah. Sounds very scary. You said also that stress is the #1 reason that people cannot work. Is that a worldwide thing?
Yeah, so mental illness is the #1 reason for people not being able to go to work anymore. I think it's work. No, pardon?
Sorry, no, please go.
No, I think it's at least in the first world states, it's definitely, I don't know if it's worldwide, but I think it's not, for example, so here in Germany, it's quite popular to have an insurance against or for this situation that you're not able to work anymore. And this is, you have this because the #1 reason is mental illness. It's not like that I don't know, losing my arm or whatever. It's that I'm not able to work anymore from my mind. And so, and therefore we are not talking enough about it.
No, but there's also a real stigma about the word's mental illness. You say that, and I think I think of Jack Nicholson in I don't even remember what it's called, that movie, but where he's like locked up and in chains and everything.
I think it's two things, right? You have mental illness, you have this craziness part, but you have this weakness part as well. So I think we are still living in a world where and I think this is still a problem, right? So the people who are the people getting in the management and CEO positions, it's a certain type of personality very often, and it's not the empathic people, it's always the other people. So the people who are more on these emotional and empathic side, it's still a weakness thing, though honestly it's not a weakness, it's a strength. And that's a big learning for me. So when I ran into this darkness, I was questioning myself, and I was asking myself, do I have to change? So I had issues with my CEO, actually. So I did not have issues with my team, I did not have issues with my clients, they all were loving me, but I had issues with my CEO, who is a certain type of personality, actually. And that caused that I was questioning myself. So do I have to change? And what I learned going through this burnout was like, no, I'm pretty okay. And that's what I learned when I get back to the agency, and still got all this great feedback from the team and from my clients who love to work with me. And I realized, no, it's the way I do the stuff is fine. Maybe it's even sometimes the better way. And I realized I don't have to question myself. But I think this is a big problem we have, because we have, like, right, these stereotypes. We have to be strong and all these stuff, and that's not true, actually, I think. So,
No.
and people who are much more, yeah, like empathic and have emotional antennas and stuff like this, very often are the better leaders, I think. But in reality, we as a society haven't realized that yet, I think. And this is why mental illness is still this weakness thing, though there also lies, I think, a big strength in these emotional and empathic parts.
Yeah, because like you said, I mean, there's weakness. I mean, a lot of people think that saying thank you and sorry is a sign of weakness, right? Or smiling, even, I've heard. If you want to be a CEO, you should never smile, you know. So people consider these things weaknesses, where, you know, I think creatives like you and I think that it's just a total strength.
Yeah, it's also honesty, right? Being honest about, okay, how I feel. So open up myself. This is not typical. It's more like, and I can tell I really know how it is to lock up myself and to not show my inner self. But if you are able to do this, you can establish so much better connections to, like, your colleagues, to your team members, if you're a leader, to your clients, whatever. It works great. I can tell, but still, it's more like, no, you have to be the tough person, right? And this is something we still have to overcome, I think. Yeah,
Definitely the taboo. Yeah. So isn't it amazing that one person with this kind of personality trait can just ruin so much? I mean, the rings in the water are just, you know, it affects so many people.
I think the problem is that it's always two people that belongs to this, right? It's the person harming with some action, but it's also the person that or it's me that I'm letting myself being harmed. So, and what I had to learn, and what I'm still learning, is like to be able to stand up if something happens and I feel like, okay, that makes me bad feelings, and that it made me feel like bad. Okay, and was that maybe against me or whatever? And so I think it's important to learn to stand up against these bad feelings on your inside. And what helps me very often is, like, when I get angry at people who I think are maybe treating me not well, or acting in a bad way. Well, sometimes anger is good, but I think very often anger is also harming you, because, like, it's like negative energy in yourself. And what I try is to transform these anger in what's the English word for mitleid? I have to look
sympathy.
that up. I'm sorry.
Sympathy.
Sorry? I think, yeah. Sympathy, yeah, right. And so if you transform it to this, it's like you're getting this negative energy from the anger away, and it's not harming you so much. And because most of the people out there, they are not bad from the inside, right? They have their own issues. Even this typical management people, right? They have their own issues. They have their own problems, and there are reasons why they are acting like they do. And what I can always do is trying not letting myself being infected and harmed by this, and questioning myself, because somebody is acting, maybe the person cannot act differently, because, as I said, he or she, they have their own problems. And so this is something we can do on ourselves to help us to stand these situations way better.
But it's so difficult, isn't it? I mean, if you are in a crisis, you know, mustering the strength to override your emotions and everything, to just kind of put yourself on the other side and say, oh, okay, well, I don't want to let these feelings, you know, go inside.
I wasn't able to do this before, right? I had to go to this crisis, and so these are the things I learned. So it's like I always call it like my mental toolbox that I have. So I have certain tools for certain situations that I can bring up when I. So the first important thing is to realize when you come into certain situations, when certain triggers are like pulled, right, from situations, and then when you realize this, then you are able to take one of your tools and react to it differently, and not letting your learned behaviors kick in that you learned or trained to yourself over years, and you can then try to, well, not override them, but to tackle them with your tools. And I think that's important, so for example, that's why I left the agency. I realized this is not the real or a good place for me anymore, because I can change this person, and I don't have to, right? And there are so many people who want to work with me, and I don't have to be there anymore, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And so it's not the person, well, was questioning me, but not to harm me, because out of his own problems and whatever. But I had to go to this crisis to learn this, I can tell.
But it's so difficult. I mean, we can't avoid these personalities. I know so many people who have, you know, burnt out because of a psychopathic boss. And I mean, why is there nothing that we can do about it? You know, because we can't. We quit. You know, people like you and I and everybody else I know that's been burnt out. Well, they either, you know, are still home with, you know, with symptoms, or they quit. And then the guy or the person just keeps, you know, controlling and manipulating and doing whatever they want to everybody else. And it should be the other way around, shouldn't it? It should be that person who gets fired instead.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think this is still a society problem, that so the hiring processes are still built up that they bring these people up to these positions, because these people are more like they are actively taking these positions, and people who are different, so from a different personality, they are not like, okay, here I am, let me be in the first row. And that's a problem. And I think our hiring processes are not built to discover these other people. And this is something that needs to change over years, I have to say. And I hope, and I think things change a little. So, well, we are talking much more about these things than we did like 10 or 20 years ago, from my point of view. And that's a good thing. Bad news is it takes lots of time.
It also seems that empathy is becoming a bigger thing. It's a more important thing to have in a company as well, I think.
And that's a good thing. We are talking much more about it, and
it will help rule out those people without empathy too, maybe.
Sometimes it's.
But the thing is that they're such good actors.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I think the point is, as I said, sometimes you cannot change the situation anymore, and then you have to leave, because there are more and more good places out there, I think. So for example, I talked to an agency here in Hamburg. They wanted to hire me, and they are working with personal coaches. So they have, I think, like working with 3 personal coaches, and every employee has the right to talk at least once a month, I think, to a personal coach about where he or she wants to go, right? And that's like, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. So these things are happening, and I think we have to, what we can do is talk about these good things that happen, and also, well, I think it's not the right thing to go out and blame everybody who's doing worse, because it's lots of negative energy.
Yes.
But still talk about the good things that happen there. And if friends ask you about a certain company where okay, things are not like I want them or would want them to be, tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to like do 1,000 people live stream and tell this, but tell it to the people, right? Be honest there. And this is something that we can do, I think, because things are changing slowly, but they do.
Yes, they are. Definitely. Yeah. And I really see that, also not just empathy, but also that the importance of UX and all that is manifesting really in throughout companies. And now it's not just a buzzword in management anymore, but it's actually people realizing that, we need to listen to our end users. We need to infuse empathy. We need to think about a lot more, of the softer issues, maybe.
Yeah, there's a pretty good connection to the whole UX thing, right? Listening to people, thinking about how people feel in certain situations, listening to what do people want, but also what do they need in certain situations. And I think this really helps there. Yeah, for sure.
So that's a different way of saying the UX of burnout, right? And then you actually put up Post-its. Was it for like a calendar or for like a daily thing to do, or what were you posting?
No, actually, what I did, so I had another important learning was like there is not this one source that helps you. There's not the one book and there's not the one therapist. It's like everybody has to put together his or her own set of tools. And for me, I had a few books, I had some audiobooks, I had some podcasts, and I had some behavior. So for example, every day I was doing like at least 2-hour walk, just going out there and walking and listening to one of my podcasts or one of my audiobooks and making pause and writing down some things. And then when coming home, putting these things on the wall. And so I had one book that I used a lot, which is about what you call like your shadow child and your how's it? It's not the light child. I don't know, the opposite to that. So in the shadow child this is an inner part of you that's from your childhood, and these are like triggers and behaviors that you learned in your childhood. So it's a psychological thing. And with the help of this book and with the help of other books and podcasts, I worked on, okay, what are my shadow child pieces? So what triggers are there that kick in certain situations? And I put this on the wall. So, and I had not the bad side, I had the shadow child, and I had the opposite, I don't know what let it call it, the sun child, right? So the happy child, maybe that's the word. So, and put this in opposite, because it's not about killing the shadow child. It's a part of you, right? Okay. And it's there. It's okay. It's more like getting in peace with it, right? And because it's a part of you. It's a part of your personality, and that's okay. Yeah. But you have to learn about it, because then you can realize when these things happen and when these triggers come there, and you can put certain tools or your happy child in opposite to it, and get you out of these bad situations. And that's one thing I did on the wall. So I had I had my shadow child, which was a huge part, and I had the happy child, which was another huge part. Mm-hmm. And I worked on this for several days. So worked on this in the kitchen, but worked on this on my walks, for example. So listened to the books, wrote things down, put them on the wall. Wow. But I also put down there, for example, I wrote down certain mantras for myself, and I put them on the wall as well. And I wrote just interesting things I heard from books and podcasts. I wrote them down and put them there. I made up my personal toolbox, actually, of tools, mental tools that I can work. So I had certain things to fill up the whole kitchen wall. Kitchen wall, actually. But this really helps, because it's every day you go there, it's there, right? And you see it. And you cannot you cannot go out of the way, right? You cannot ignore it.
Okay.
And that's really helpful. I can tell.
So that was part of your healing, is
Yeah,
actually
definitely
being confronted with it every day.
Yeah, it was really important to. So as I said, I had great luck. I think that I decided by myself, okay, I cannot move on anymore. So I was able to just after a few weeks to go into a more active phase and work on myself with help from others, but also working on myself. And yeah, that's what I did there. And this really helped me to realize some of the things I already knew, but put it in a more understandable
Concrete.
I don't know. So yeah, make it more understandable to myself and sort it out, and to realize, okay, these things are happening in certain situations. And so for me, this was the basis. After I think after 6 or 7 weeks, I realized, okay, now I have to get a change of location. So I was here in my apartment, right? I was doing my walks every day, and I needed this time. And then I realized, okay, now I need to go out somehow. And I did what many people did before. I walked the Camino in Spain, the St.
Great.
James Way.
Yeah.
And these things really helped me, because what happens there is, like when you started your walk and you're just a few days away from the start, but the destination is still weeks away. This is a situation of total mental freedom, I would say, because there's nothing important besides how far do I go today. And what happens there as well, you have to confront with yourself. So I needed this basis that I worked on my kitchen wall. And when I did this walk, these things were working in myself, and I had to confront, because I couldn't run away, right? There was nothing else to do besides walking, and I had to walk to move on. And so the kitchen wall was a really important part of my healing, and it was the basis for the next phase when I did this walk. And I think where these things started to work on my inner side, or really started to work on my inner side, and started to to get from my head to my heart. Maybe that's the right way to say it.
Mm-hmm. That sounds nice. Can you tell me the title of your Shadow Child book, or maybe send it later?
I can send it later. It's from Stefanie Stahl. The German title is the. I have it. I can send you later.
Yeah, that's fine. I was wondering if it was Eckhart Tolle.
No, it's Stefanie Stahl. Yeah. So I think here in Germany this is really famous, but there is an English version as well. I have looked that up. So because I put a list of my resources on my website, and so all the books that I used, I can send you this. This is there. And I looked all the books up which are available in English, and this is definitely.
Yeah. Do you know Eckhart Tolle, right?
I have heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually where I have the thing of, trying to get away from your emotions and he says something about, removing yourself from your ego so that you can look at the situation from the outside and try not to react on all the emotions. It's really good. I think you would like it. It's long though. It's
yeah. I know. I know this. I didn't know that, or I didn't have it in. I connected to him, but I know these method that you say, okay, this is one thing to try to sometimes get yourself out of the situation and look to it from another angle, right? And from another perspective. And it's pretty hard actually to do this.
It's really hard, especially if you're like, I'm an emotional type, so I'm like all caught up in the drama and the feelings and the thoughts and everything. So trying to like pull myself out from that, but like you said, the first thing is to realize what's going on, and then you can sort of try. Depending on how
both things are really hard.
Is. No. So anyway, it's about time for some
and
questions.
Both things are really hard.
Yes, really. Oh yeah. Okay.
Sure. Time runs.
Yeah, it's amazing. Oh my goodness, and we haven't even talked about the most important thing. So Thorsten and I, like I said, we were doing this messaging back and forth, and we were talking about the the conference, and then the talk, and then we're about a workshop, and then the ideas were just flying. And then Thorsten mentions that that he and some others are working on a UX manifesto. And like, kidding me? Yeah, we've been talking about this at UX Copenhagen conference for like 3 years now, I think, where everybody's like, where is the ethical manifesto for designers? We've got the Hippocratic Oath for doctors, and we have nothing for designers, so we can do whatever we want, right? And that's just so wrong. So I think something is brewing for UX Copenhagen 2021 on this subject. Should we leave it at that, or should we?
Yeah, that would be really great, I think,
Yes.
because we have to have something like this. I'm sure it would be so great. We talked about the Copenhagen catalog, right?
Yes.
And I really like this idea of having these principles and then having different designers building like a poster-like design for each of the designer for one principle, and to have these different poster-like. I really like that, and it would be great to do something like this for such a manifesto. Yeah, let's do this.
Let's do it. We can't have a dinner party this year, so let's do it instead of the dinner party. We'll do it online.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yes, I am very excited. Okay, questions. Okay, let's see. I think these are more like comments. Creative often don't see signals for instability because we're used to things going up and down. That's true. Lack of strong UX management that have experience with creative team. And this is difficult. Like, one of the questions I'd written down is like, how do you speak to somebody who has, how do you go to your manager and say, listen, I'm feeling these stress symptoms and I'm afraid of burning out? How do you do that?
I think I would turn it around, and I would say, as a UX manager, and I don't like the term of UX manager actually, and because what I realized, and I don't know if this is more like a US thing, these strong separation of management and doing things, because for me it was always important to be like, I would have never called myself a manager. I always called myself more of a leader, and I was also always doing work by myself. And what I always tried is to establish a connection to all of my people, a connection of trust. And what happened, people came to me with their problems, be it personal or be it work related, or be it a mixture, or be it like, okay, I don't know, maybe I want to do something else, or maybe I want to go back to school and do a master in this or that. And so what I realized that, you have to try to build up these connection to your people, so that they know they can come to you with everything. And I was told my people was like, hey, you can come up with every idea, for example, as well, that you have, and we will discuss it. It might be that I say, okay, we can't do this, or I might say it's a bad idea from my opinion, whatever, but we can talk about everything. And so I was every person from my team, I think I had a special relationship, and they were, so people, as I said, people came to me with their problems. And I think the thing of management is not doing like, okay, we do a meeting every once a week and then we talk. It's more like, you can do this, but you have to talk about meaningful things, right? And therefore it's not necessary to have this certain appointment, but more like, there's this saying you have to do a meaningful talk with each of your people at least once a week. And this is something that you, as a leader, I don't like the word management, as I said, that you have to establish, and then people will come with their problems. From my experience.
Is that a very German way of thinking of things?
I don't know. I think Germans are more like Germans are not the real emotional people, right? So from a stereotype way of seeing it. So it's what we had before. I think these empathic thing and empathic leadership thing is growing more and more. And I think people are talking more and more about this. But it's still, as a leader, you also have to, I think you have to cover certain things from your people, right? So if your management is like doing crazy things, you have to cover this. And there are still too much managers out there that just give the stress they get from their management,
Right.
and give it to their people, right? And this is still happening so often, and because it's easier, right? It's definitely easier. It's like, yeah, okay, somebody said this to me, you have to do this, bam. And it's harder to question things, but also to stand up for things that you believe are right, and to stand yourself in front of your people. And this is because if people realize that you are there for them and that you stand up for them, then they will trust you, and they will see you as a leader, and they will come to you with their problems, I think. But it's much harder than doing it the normal way, or the still normal way. Yeah. I'm afraid.
Waterfall, I guess, hierarchical.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody in the audience have questions? You can actually turn on your camera. I was going to do Slido, but I think we will just stick to the chat here. I don't think there's any questions on Slido. That's kind of complicated. So if anybody has a question that they want to ask, you can either write it in the chat, you can do it anonymously in Slido, or you can turn on your cameras now if you'd like. And if not, I'll just keep talking because we have a million things to talk about still. So I still love the way that you workshopped yourself out of your burnout. I think that is just, I mean, it doesn't get more UX than that. It's very meta.
Yeah, and it was good. But, I had a phase where my creativity was burning myself up, and I had a phase where my creativity was helping myself to get back to the good fire.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I like this very well.
That's cute. Okay, I don't think anybody has any questions, so we'll just keep talking.
I'm just having a look at the chat now, but yeah, Sophia is saying like working with UX can be hard, especially if you have to make up or work on this business case thing, right? And this is still something, I think this is also something that we as design leaders have to work on, and that we have to tackle, because you have the business people and you might also have the product people that come up with their ways of working and with their ways of slicing things down, right? And okay, we have to do this, and Sammy, does it take 1 day or 2 days, whatever? But this is not how creativity works, right? And again, this is something that we as leaders have to face and have to stand up and say, no, that's not the way we are working. And well, we have to prove that our way of working is also efficient, but it's a little bit like working in agile, right? It's like if people don't know this, they're like, hey, no, that's not working. I need a perfect estimation, how long, blah blah, whatever. And I think this is similar for us as creative people. We have to challenge the ways of working of the business and the product people. And I know that's not easy, and it's not everyone can do this from his or her position, right? So, but for us as design leaders, that's something that we can do and that we have to do. And that does not mean it's always working. Sometimes we have to do it in a way maybe we don't want to do it. And I had to do this as well, but everything is a process, right? And we have to take this challenge, and we have to work on this maybe for a long time. But I think we can change things there, because UX is as important as it never has been, right?
Right.
So, and this gives us much power actually to question things and to change things.
Yes, exactly. Gives us a seat at the management table. So Sophia has definitely. Definitely. Sophia has a great question. She's asking for tips for juniors. And I was thinking, while you've been speaking, I've been thinking that, a lot of these like self insights and these things. I mean, I would not have had them when I was 30 or, you know, finishing school or whatever. I mean, it's taken me a lot longer to kind of get to a point where I'm, you know, I don't know. I don't know if it's a temper thing or if it's something about experience, but, you know, for me, it's getting older that also, you know, allows me to have more insight into myself and how I'm reacting and how I'm acting. And Sophia's asking, do you have any tips for juniors? And I'm thinking, you know, exactly that is, it's even more difficult if you're younger and you don't have life experience, you don't have work experience, and you're just kind of, you know, going with the flow. Here we call it the hamster wheel. You know, if you're just, you know, working, get up, go to work, do your work, go home, you know, sleep, and then the next day you're back in the hamster wheel again. So tips for juniors?
I think one tip would be that I think a problem is that we always think like, okay, I have to do this because if I won't do this, I don't have a job and there is no alternative, and this is a big problem. And so I can say myself, for a long time I did not in German we say Urvertrauen. So I'm trusting in life, and I'm trusting that everything will be good and will become good. And this is something that you I think that you can work on. And yeah, I know I'm 42 years old now, and it took me a long time to get there. But I think you can start working on this way earlier than I did.
Yeah.
And start sometimes, yeah, trust that things will be good. And if things really feel bad and do not feel good, you don't have to do everything. And even if you think, okay, there is no alternative, then it does not necessarily mean, for example, to quit the job, but you can work on, okay, what can I change, or what could be the way to a change, right? Take your energy away from these job that seems to harm you, and put some energy and put it on, how can I change this situation? And it's not easy, right? But it's like something else could be, well, if I'm still working too much, and there are timelines, and I can at some point say, hey, okay, I can't work more, right? I'm already working too much, and at some point I can say this. And if my manager or the company just says, okay, but that's not okay, at some point I have to think about and say, okay, maybe then at some point I have to leave, and maybe that will lead to a harder time, but in the end things will be better. Because it's like, for me, yeah, I for a long time I always thought, okay, there is no alternative, I have to do this, right? Well, and I love my job, but I know this from other situations. And what really helps me is like, yeah, putting away energy from these things that somehow are bad for me, and but feels like, okay, I have to finish this and I have to work on this. I still have these things, but saying, okay, how important is it, and can I take some energy and work on, yeah, how can I change this situation, even if a change of situation is still far away, but it already helps to realize this is bad, I want to change something, and then work on how can I change this. This would be one advice. So always like question the status quo and question the situation, and is it still good? And if you like, you know, is there, I think it was Steve Jobs that said, hey, I'm looking in the mirror every morning and asking myself, will it be a good day or a bad day? And if for a too long time I say it will be a bad day, then I have to definitely change something. And Steve Jobs is a questionable person, right, for many reasons. But this is really true, I think. And I know how hard it is, because for a very long time I sometimes ask these questions to myself, but I didn't change things. But first step is always realizing that something is wrong. That already helps. That already helps a lot. And that would be my my second advice.
Yeah.
And so, is there something else?
Say,
well,
yeah, I would also
the job is not the most important thing in the world, right? that's also, the job is not the most important thing in the world. I for a long time I thought so.
Yes.
But this is something that there are other things, and think about what other things do you like in your life, and if they are not so much, then work on what other things do I like.
Yes.
Besides the job, and be it a side project that I do on my own for good or for just for fun or whatever.
Yes.
And so look for other things that you can do, because then you are not so much in danger of taking the job for like, for your self-affirmation and for like, I'm valuable because I'm doing things here, right?
Right.
The world won't be better because of my job, right? It doesn't matter at all for the world, for the universe, whatever. So, and this helps to try to say that to yourself, and
to do things that bring you joy. Maybe to do things that bring you joy.
Yeah, for sure. And as I said, do other things, right? So what I realized, for example, what really helps me very often, and when I'm in a really stressful situation, I just go out for 30 minutes and do a walk here in the neighborhood. And I know it takes some time until I get down from the stress.
Right.
And what I learned is that I have to. So what you usually do when you have stress or you're not feeling well, it's like you're doing things to cover this, right? Even if I'm not working, then I'm switching on Netflix or whatever. And what really helps sometimes is to give yourself some time to face these negative emotions and feelings. So just be there. And for me, walking is, you can also sit down and just do nothing but thinking and feeling about this. But this really helps, because then facing it helps you to overcome it, helps you to realize what's going on, and that's always the first step. So this is a quick win tip that you always can do. Just get up from your desk, go outside for 15 or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And to get a change of perspective on what's really important.
But also to burn off the extra cortisol that your body is producing because of the stress.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Physically it's good as well.
Yeah. So I would also say a tip is to always trust your instincts. So if your instincts, your gut is telling you this is wrong, then trust it because it's true.
But sometimes you have to learn this. I can tell. For me, sometimes it was I wasn't sure if I can trust myself anymore.
Yes,
so, but it's
gone wrong. It's gone wrong for me every time I did not trust my instincts. So it's a very wishy-washy kind of, fluffy thing to say, but I really think it's true. We're over time. So it's 8 o'clock. Anybody who needs to go is very welcome to. If you'd like to stay on, Thorsten, do you have a couple more minutes?
Sure.
Because now the questions are starting to come in. So I will keep recording. So this recording will be a little bit longer than normal, but everybody, thanks for joining. And I will be sending out an email with links to things that we've been talking about today, and also a link to the next conversations with UX Copenhagen, which will be on December 8th with Beant Kouwer from Holland, the Netherlands, I'm sorry. And then I think we'll be having a break until January because of Christmas and all that and the holidays. So thanks for joining. And anybody who wants to stay on and keep questioning Thorsten, please do. And otherwise, see you next time. So I have a question from Nisha. She was also saying that it's really difficult to share these discomforts, which is, also, it's very uncomfortable to face these things that are affecting you negatively, right? So how do you do that in a good way? Because I'm the type of person that will postpone those kind of things and ignore them until they get so big that, too much.
Yeah, I think, so as I said, I think it's the first thing is always to confess it to yourself. And this is way harder than you always think, because it's not like, okay, for a second, I think like, yeah, okay, some things are not this good, blah blah, whatever, and then get back to Netflix or whatever. So the first thing always is to force yourself to confront with these thoughts and with these feelings and emotions, because you feel bad then, right? And as I said, uncomfortable. And it's really important to stand this, because what I realize, when you learn to do this and to stand these things get less bad actually, and it's more like, okay, yeah, it's okay, and I know I will get over this situation here and things will feel better soon. And I think if you get to this level, it's also much easier to talk to others about this. So for me, for example, it's like I really like people, but I also need lots of time for myself, I can tell. And for a long time, it was really hard for me to realize, okay, what do I really need? What time do I need for myself? And there's a friend asking, hey, do you have time? And I was like, I don't know if I really want to, but I can't say no, right? And that's not okay if I say this. So first thing is to realize on yourself what you need and how you feel. And I think then it's also easier to see, hey, do I want to share this with someone? Do I need someone whom I can share this with? Maybe a friend or whatever. Because if you take this, how to say this? If you take this terror feeling from these bad feelings, right, and make it a little bit less bad, then it's also easier to talk about this. And this is something that I realized when I started doing this talks about this topic. It's much easier for me now talking about it. The more I talk about it, and it's okay to me. So it's not a big problem to me anymore to talk about. And it's so what I realized, there are so many more people who have these feelings as well. So it's I won't say it's the new normal, but there are so many people who have situations and feelings like this in all the variations that are out there. So it's like, it's not having these problems, it's not unnormal. It's normal. Everyone has these problems in different variations, and this also makes it, I think, much easier to realize I'm not the weirdo with the mental whatever problems. I'm just human like anyone else out there. And I think realizing this, or this, it's important to realize this, because then it's much easier. For example, to say to them, hey, I'm not feeling well today. I can't see you today. I'm sorry. And right, to be able to express, hey, yeah, this is how I feel today, because I think this is still really hard for many people and for many of us to do this. So if you start doing this, it gets easier and easier, I think.
Yeah. And also once you face something like, I think, if there's something that I've been postponing, when I finally do it, it's not as bad as I feared it would have been. Like, that phone call or that, a conversation with somebody, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, because I, postponed it so long that it had grown to be a big problem in my head. So I think that, if you just, it's not going to be as bad as you fear. You'll get through it, like you said.
Yeah, and getting into action is always better than doing nothing, right? It's going on the way is always better than standing still. And this is true. And yeah, this can be small, very small steps, but still, if you do something. And yeah, sometimes there's this saying, right? Sometimes you have to face this fears that you have, because they are not as big as you think. And when you face them, you realize, oh, it's okay, and I'm still alive, right?
So, and now it's gone from my head. It's gone from my mental backpack.
Yeah. True. So true.
So Lona is asking, can you talk more about the workshop you did to get out of the stress?
So as I already said, it was were different things that I did, and it were different sources that I used. There was this one book which was maybe the main source, because this shadow child thing and this happy child thing were a central part of it. And since I put these on the wall, and so when you read this book, actually it's like, how to say, it's very practical. You can work with it, right? So it's going through the different steps of your shadow child, helping you to realize, okay, what are the how to say, the inner believings that I have, that I do not see, but which are there on my inside, right? And that are triggering me in certain situations. And so this was one part, actually. But for example, for me, really important was having these other sources and having the room to think about the things. So it's not like a workshop I do at work, like, okay, I have 2 hours now and now I'm working on it. It's more like, yeah, an ongoing process over weeks, and every day, yeah, using the time that I wanted to use, right? So as I said, for me, going on this walk was really important, because that was when things worked in myself. And when I was doing lots of listening to the audiobook version, and I worked with it while walking, which really helped me, and wrote things down and wrote thoughts down. And when I came back, then I put some more things onto the wall. Or maybe in the afternoon I said, okay, now I feel like I want to work a little bit further on the wall, and then I took a certain aspect. So yeah, I think the big difference to the normal workshops I usually do is, like, there is not this one time frame that I use. It's more like an open-end time frame, right? And not pressuring yourself, okay, I have to do this now. But more like having, I think it's important to at least think about it every day, at least a little.
Yeah.
But as much as you can. And sometimes it's like, yeah, there is not much mental room, right? And sometimes there's much more on other days. And so that was really important. And though it was structured, it was also unstructured, right? So working on this when I felt like I want to work on this more, or I have a thought on this, or I heard was working on the next chapter on the book, and then put the things on. But also was like, okay, now I feel like I listened to one of my very good podcasts that I listened to, and they were talking about mantras, and I was working on mantras that might help me. Then I put them down on the wall, and it was like, when I started doing this, I wasn't sure how the wall will look in the end, right? So it grew, and I added different things. I said, like the toolbox, or like mantras, or like, for example, I also put on a great poem that I got from somewhere, because I really liked it, and it fits so much. So I gave myself the freedom to put on there what I wanted to. It was good to have this skeleton that was the basis, but then see, okay, what other sources are there, and what sources do really help me, and do I want to put something on there? So sometimes I just put some quotes from a great book also on the wall, because I felt like, yeah, these are really good things. So as I said, this book I used is very practical. I also read or listened to another book, which is from a very famous person. He's called Thich Nhat Hanh, which was a Buddhist monk, but I think he's living in the US now for years, and wrote lots of books. And this is more like, not so practical. It's also about the inner child, but more from a spiritual and Buddhist way of looking onto it. For me, the combination was really great, because I got some great thoughts from this book. And so I put just quotes from this book on the wall as well. And that was really important to me, to have a point where I start, and to have like a skeleton where I start and how I do things, but then to grow and to add things, all the things that somehow helped me, or that somehow felt like, okay, this is yeah, this is true, and this is good, and this needs to be on the wall as well. And so, yeah, I can tell that was really important to me, and that was the big difference to everything that I did on my job, or still do on the job.
It was a giant mood board.
Yeah, somehow it is, and this is what the shadow child and the happy child are about, right?
Right, like real moods, like emotional moods.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's fine. You are a true UXer. I don't think I've met anybody that's more UX than you are. I mean, that's like deep in your soul. Okay, yeah. Somebody's Arika says, thank you for your honesty and transparency around such a taboo. Yeah, that's wonderful. It's been so much fun. And I can also say that definitely Thorsten will be at UX Copenhagen 2021 speaking about this, and probably workshopping, and probably working on the UX manifesto as well, or whatever we're going to call it. Oh, it's excellent. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for your time. And if there's anything you need to talk to me about, or any questions about the conference, anything I can help with, please reach out.
Will do. It's
okay. Cool.
Thank you for having me. It was
Thanks
great to be here.
Yes, lovely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, stay well, everybody, and stay safe. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
Hope to see you soon.
Yeah, see you in March.
Yeah.
I hope we can get to meet sometime soon, like in real life. I think that at some point I'm going to have to, I don't know, do something to get all the speakers from both 2020 and 2021 to Copenhagen, so that we can all meet each other in real life. Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, since I have family in Copenhagen, there's a good chance that when the Corona situation gets better, that at least I will be in Copenhagen somewhere. So hopefully, hopefully someone in 2021, I will definitely be in Copenhagen, and yeah, would love to meet in person. That would be great.
Yes, me too. We'll do a UX meetup if you want.
Yeah, that would be great.
Guest star from Hamburg. That would be lovely.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Cool. Well, I'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining.
Talk soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.